Hello everyone, so today we're going to embark on another great adventure known collectively as the Argive Saga, but most people are most familiar with the one hero from this particular saga, and that is Perseus. But before we can get to Perseus, we have to get the background of basically the whole family, all right, and the region. So if I skip here a little bit more, I want to make clear what region of Greece we are talking about. It is this region right here. It is known as Argos. It's referred to as the Argoloid collectively. And there are three great cities in this particular region of Greece. They were originally fortresses, but the first city is Argos, and it is the home of the hero Diomedes. And we'll hear him briefly referred to in the Heracles saga. Secondly is Tiryns, the hometown of Heracles. Where is it? There it is. Okay. And thirdly is Mycenae, the home of Perseus. There are other associations with this particular story. It's quite wide-ranging, actually, because the story will include parts of the Eastern Mediterranean as well as the Levant, which is just another word for the Holy Lands, the Judeo-Christian Holy Lands, Jerusalem, and so forth. And lastly, Egypt is featured in this, quite surprisingly perhaps, but you'll see how it all plays in. There will also be a little bit of Corinth and Thebes that come into play as well. Okay, but again, when we talk about the Argos region of Greece, this is what we're talking about here. So we're no longer talking about the Argos as a ship that Jason and the Argonauts sailed on, but as a region of Greece with its own heroes and its own saga. All right, so we are actually going to start back pretty far with this particular saga, and it picks up with Pheronius, the first king of the Argos region. He is the founder of Argos, and his name means the first of men. So while King Pheronius was ruling over Argos, there was a contest between Poseidon and Hera to decide who would be the patron deity of this particular region. Now, Hera winds up winning the contest. Surprise, Poseidon's not very lucky with any of these, I guess. And Hera becomes the patron deity of the Argos region, and in fact, the Argos region is the greatest center in the world for the worship of Hera. Now, Poseidon did not take losing lightly, and in fact, he dries up all of the rivers and in the whole Argos region, and in fact, even to this day, the entire region does not have sufficient water. So, there you go. Interestingly enough. Then our saga actually picks up with the succeeding king, Inachus, and his daughter, Io. So let me go out here real quick and show you this. I will post this on in your class notes on eCampus, but this is kind of the Perseus and Heracles family tree. Okay, so just to give you an idea of the story, this is where we are right now with Io, and we'll kind of skip from Io down here to the brothers Aegyptus and Danaus, and we'll wind up down here with Perseus. If you skim down a little bit farther, you will find Heracles, but of course he's going to have his own set of videos. All right, so let's pick up here with Io and her affair with Zeus and the resulting son, Epaphus. All right, so let's get back in here. So, because the Argos region is a center for the worship of Hera, Io is a princess, but she is also a priestess of Hera. And, of course, Zeus is going to spot Io in her beauty and wants to have an affair with her. However, she is a priestess of Hera, so this is unlikely to go unnoticed by his wife. So what Zeus does is he turns Io into a beautiful cow in order to protect her and hide her from Hera. However, Hera is no fool, and she knows exactly what her husband has done, and so she asks Zeus to give her this beautiful cow. "Oh, is this a gift from me?" she might have said, and of course Zeus would be like, oh, yes, baby, whatever you want. Okay, so Hera has Io in her cow form turned over to her, and she gives the cow to Argos Panoptes. Argos Panoptes, which means all-seeing. He is a giant, and he has eyes all over his body. The most common count is that he has 100 eyes, and none of the eyes are how can I say this? His eyes do not all sleep at the same time. So he has some eye open at all times. So he makes a very good guard, and he guards over Io. Now, Zeus doesn't forget about Io, and in fact, he sends Hermes to rescue her. So this is where's my cursor? This is where we are right here. All right, and in fact, one of Hermes' epithets or names is Hermes Argiphaontes. Right, Argiphaontes means slayer of Argos. So Zeus sends Hermes to secretly rescue Io, and at first Hermes tries to lull the giant to sleep with music, but when that doesn't work, he finally kills him with his sword. And it is after Argos' death that Hera rewards Argos for his service to her by placing all of his 100 eyes on the tail of her sacred bird. And what is her sacred bird, you might ask? The peacock. That's right. So once Io is freed from her guard, well, that's about all Hermes did. He didn't turn her back into a woman or anything. And so she is forced to wander the earth. And she is pestered by a gadfly. So this is an enormous fly that basically flies around her, bites her, and so forth. And of course it was sent by Hera. And so the gadfly pesters her, but also keeps driving her forward until she reaches the Nile River. And once she reaches the Nile River, Zeus finally restores her to her human form. Now, once she is in Egypt, that is where she gives birth to her son by Zeus. His name is Epaphus, and his name means he of the touch, because supposedly Zeus got her pregnant by just touching her. Sure, right? However, I'm sorry, Stella is playing outside the door, and I don't know if you can hear her or not, but it's kind of distracting. Anyway, let me see if I can get rid of her. Hold on one second, let me pause. Okay, so once Epaphus is born, Hera is still, of course, jealous, and so at Hera's request, the Curetes, or the wild mountain deities who supposedly sheltered baby Zeus from Kronos, come and abduct baby Epaphus and take him away. So Io is forced to search for her son and further wander the earth until she finally reaches Syria, and that's when she will find her son. Now, Io's story was quite important, or quite eye-catching, ear-catching, something like that, in Egypt, and so the Egyptians adopt Io as their own divine hero and goddess, and she becomes Isis in Egyptian mythology. Now, in the course of many versions of Io's story, one of the most famous is Aeschylus's account of Io's suffering in Prometheus Bound. And in this story, Io, during the course of her wanderings, tells her story to Prometheus, and Prometheus foretells her future, including her wanderings, finding her son, and her many descendants in Greece. Now, Io will serve as kind of the founder of the royal families of Egypt and Argos. And so, like I said before, in terms of our genealogical chart, we go from Epaphus to Libya to Agenor to Belus. Belus has two sons, Aegyptus and Danaus, and that's where we will kind of skip ahead to the next part of the saga. Okay, so Aegyptus has 50 sons, and Danaus has 50 daughters. Now remember, I said they're brothers, but they make arrangements for their daughters and sons to marry. The brothers have a quarrel, and Danaus commands his daughters to kill their husbands on their wedding night. Now, the only Danad, that's what the daughters are called collectively, to disobey was Hypermnestra, because Hypermnestra was in love with her husband Lycaeus. And she's the only one who does not follow the demand to kill her husband, and so she is where the family line will continue. Now, the interesting thing about the Danads, remember, crimes against family members, against husbands and so forth are punishable in the afterlife. And so the Danads are punished for their crime in the afterlife by being compelled to everlastingly pour water into a vessel full of holes. And so that's what you see here with this painting. One other of the Danads, named Amymone, went for water, and a satyr pursues her. So Poseidon actually saves her and has an affair with her, and as a reward he struck a rock with his trident, and a freshwater spring burst forth, and even to this day this spring is named Amymone. So there's a little additional story for you there too. Okay, and so if you remember from our family tree, we've talked about Io and Epaphus. Skip down on this particular side. We will come back to Agenor and Cadmus and Europa much later. Okay, so we will get to that particular side eventually. But we talked about the brothers Aegyptus and Danaus and their 50 sons and daughters, and the murder that the daughters commit against their husbands, with the exception of Hypermnestra and Lycaeus. And that brings us down here to this part of the family tree. So we're finally getting closer to Perseus. So Hypermnestra and Lycaeus have a son named Abas. Abas has a son named Acrisius, and Acrisius is the king of Argos, where our story will pick up, because his daughter Danae is the mother of our hero Perseus. Alright, so back to the story, and we'll at least get a little bit of the early part of the story. So Danae is the princess and the daughter of Acrisius, and in a visit to the temple of Apollo, Acrisius was told that his daughter would have a child that would kill him. And so Acrisius decides he's going to lock his daughter away so that she can never have a child. However, Danae is beautiful, and of course Zeus finds beautiful women no matter where they may be locked away. Now, supposedly she is locked away in like an underground cell that's lined with bronze and very secure. So Zeus manages to get to Danae by coming to her in a golden shower of his divinity. And that's what you see in this picture here.